Question. What are you a fan of? Is it a movie? A book? A TV show? A music group? A sports team? Or maybe something less conventional? I'm Regan.
And I'm Christian. We've spent over 10 years working in the customer service and entertainment industries. It's this experience which leads us to believe that everyone has a compelling, personal connection to the things that they are a fan of.
And we're here to uncover the secret fandoms of the Gulf Coast's VIPs. Join us as we talk with passionate fans about what they love. On this episode of Fantastic People...
When I started dating my now husband, about a month into it, I remember going to the gym in 2013 and just not feeling quite right. And it's never left. So even now, I'm like, oh, my neck hurts and I'm a little tired and all this stuff. When it first started happening, I went from being voted most athletic in high school, being very fit, very healthy, not anything wrong with me besides allergies, to being debilitated, hardly able to walk upstairs, having days where my back and neck would hurt so bad, I would just go in the hallway and cry. I'd leave rehearsal to just be like, what is going on? I felt like life was going in this downward spiral. Why is this happening? No doctor even to this day can tell me what it is. So, of course, at the time I was like, I'm dying. So I really just didn't know. And that's about the time I really started getting into anime. So there was a summer where I was not really bedridden. I just really wasn't going anywhere because it was so tolling on my body. So I just stayed at home, and I think that's when I was binging Naruto the most, and it was a great distraction from my mind.
We are joined by Christina Aldahondo. Christina is a local public school orchestra teacher, instructor for the Emerald Coast Honors Orchestra, a wedding and event musician, and the electric violist for the White Tie Rock Ensemble. About 8 years ago, Christina began to suffer from a mysterious illness, which, to this day, has not been completely identified. She shares with us that watching anime became a great distraction during a very unsettling time in her life. This episode of Fantastic People is sponsored by Hellcat Hangar in Pensacola, Florida. Hellcat Hangar's venture is to build a thriving network of individuals and opportunities centered around the production arts and media. They strive to provide exceptional service as a production studio, valuable insight and education, and to enrich the overall industry across the Gulf Coast. They open their doors as a business, a venue, and as a community event center, but in all manners, their doors are open to cultivate a culture of togetherness. To join the Hellcat Hangar community or reserve a time for your event, you can find them online at hellcathangar.com or call 850-341-7403. Wait, what? You were born in Japan?
Yokosuka.
I was, but I don't remember anything. I was only there for a year when I was born, and then we flew back.
Are you a Navy brat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lived in Tennessee and then here, and I really don't remember anything.
Yeah, I was looking at the information, and as soon as I saw Yokosuka, that's pretty much the
only reason anybody would go there.
Yeah, it's a Navy base. I work for the Navy now. I'm in human resources, so I send young 22-year-old sailors off to Yokosuka every week.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I would assume they're really excited about it, but I don't know what it's like there, and you don't remember, so.
Yeah, I have a friend who's over there now who's a military wife. She doesn't like it as much as I thought she would, but also COVID. So.
Yeah, that certainly taints things.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you play with the White Tie Rock Ensemble?
I do, yeah.
She does.
That's awesome. I went to a concert at the fairgrounds a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, people don't recognize me in person because I wear glasses and it shows I wear contacts, and I hate wearing contacts, so I don't ever wear them.
Yeah.
So people would never be like, you're that girl from White Tie. No, they'd never know.
I think specifically you guys also have very specific look.
Yeah.
That's true.
With your whole...
Oh, yeah, done up to the nines. And we're far away. So
even
there's that too.
Even when I've been out, I know you guys were performing or somewhere, and we're like, oh, let's go say hi. I'm like, where are they? Oh, hey. You know, kind of sneak up on me.
I sold popsicles at a concert at the fairgrounds. So
popsicles?
Yep, I was there with my popsicle cart and my
That's
umbrella.
so exciting.
Yeah.
I love popsicles.
K-O-P.
Hashtag King of Pops. That's cool, though. And you play the violin or
Viola, both, but for White Tie, I do viola.
Very cool.
Yeah.
and you teach music.
I do.
locally.
I teach exactly what I play. So violin, viola, cello, bass. I have to play all of them to an extent, but violin and viola are definitely what I'm best at. And teaching it is super fun. I did it this morning at a summer camp. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
If I could go back and pick an instrument to learn that I did not put any time or effort into, it would be cello.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's a gorgeous
Cello's the
instrument.
coolest instrument on earth. Let's be real.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I didn't even know it was an option as a kid. Like, my dad's a drummer, so I had really no choice but to be a percussionist.
That's what I wanted to do. So I'm a little jealous.
There
so
you go.
Let's just teach each other.
We'll live vicariously through one another.
Yes, please.
So I do want to I want to jump into this before we talk about
What we're here to talk
why you're
about.
here. You played with Kygo.
Yes, I didn't know who he was at all when I got asked by this lady in LA to do it. She found our Tied Up Quartet Instagram. We're the quartet that plays with White Tie, and I was like, who's Kygo? Sure, I'll play with some DJ at a festival, whatever. I've never even been to a music
cool.
festival. And then I look him up and he's got like millions of followers. I'm like, really? I've never genuinely heard of him. And honestly, until we got there and realized he was like one of the headliners that night besides Cardi B, I was like,
Wow.
holy moly, this is really big. And then there was an audience. I said there's probably about 10,000. It could have been an easy 20,000 just sea of people. Like you couldn't see the end. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Don't be nervous.
That's
cool.
awesome.
It was cool. It was definitely, there was fire, there was flames. We were on an elevation that like moved. It was crazy.
Wow. So what? She just needed.
Yeah, she
that work out?
wanted all female string players, and she found us and was like, oh, they perform, they play shows, they've done electric stuff, they've worn in-ears before, because not many string players do that. They're all typically on the classical end of things. So sometimes she hesitates to get people like that because they just don't have the experience. But with our band, we wear in-ears, we know how the click goes. Like, it's like when I got on stage, I was like, oh, I've done this 50 million times, just a way bigger audience.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I got to, they kept it really low key. They're like, don't tell anyone you're doing this until maybe the night of or after, because no one's supposed to know that there's going to be live strings or whatever. And there's a whole bunch of guests that he brought with him that were also a secret. So like we were on our side of the stage waiting to go on, and it was a surprise that Jimmy Buffett was playing with him.
cool.
So like he came off on our side of the stage, and like right before we went on, I was like, hey girls, nice to see you. So I was like, I was more excited to meet him because I actually knew who he was. And he was really nice. So that's definitely the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that's definitely tops any musical thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that's topped anything I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've played
I've
on
had some
some
cool
Christian
opportunities,
albums, but I really think that's the coolest besides just being in my band, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything close to that, I don't think. I've recorded an album. I've toured some.
I've performed standing next to Ashley Brown,
Yeah.
the original Mary Poppins on Broadway.
Oh, that's
It
really
wasn't on
cool.
Broadway. It wasn't in New York. It wasn't in LA. It wasn't anywhere cool at all. But we were there. We were interacting. Just that's the beauty of being a part of the Pensacola Children's Chorus. Throw back to last week's episode.
Yeah.
But we were all just people from Pensacola, so it just wasn't. It wasn't that cool.
I think the
Yeah.
coolest performance I've ever done, I was hired by a church there was 4 of us, and we were hiding on stage, and you weren't supposed to know during the performance that we were there. And it wasn't like a huge, maybe a couple thousand members on the church, and then like we revealed ourselves during, and literally like the audible gasp that people had that these 4 things that were like they just thought were props on stage were actually humans who were wearing drums at the time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's the only performance that I look back on and I'm like, I got hired to do that, and it was a ton of fun, and I'm thankful. Everything else was just
I didn't get paid for mine.
yeah,
I paid for mine actually.
yeah, that's lame.
Yeah, cool one I didn't get paid for, but was we played with Black Violin. I think they're huge. They're actually from Florida, but they're an African-American duet on violin and viola, and they're really into getting kids like on the right track and being inspiration to them. So we got to play with them in Mobile, and they were just so humble and kind and really good with our students. Like I was fangirling really hard. They were awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I'm sure we could all sit here and talk about music for an hour like we recently did, but that's not what we're to discuss today. And I'm excited because this is a topic I could discuss for a very long time. I talk to Regan's ear all the time, and he never listens to me about it.
I do.
We're here to talk about anime.
I'm glad you watch. I didn't think Reagan did because I know him, but
Well, hey.
He's watched some.
We have. And we've even asked you for recommendations before.
oh my God.
We didn't really We didn't really watch them, but we asked for them.
Here's where I went wrong. I recommended them watch Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and they literally was either right before you had
about to have a baby.
And so they got 4 episodes in, and if you're familiar with FMA, the 4th episode is jarring.
We just rewatched that because that was one of my first, and
we did a full stop. We were like, nope, we're not going to keep going right now.
Yeah.
Not a good time.
Yeah, it's a gut punch right in the beginning.
Not if you're pregnant.
Yeah. I could probably come back to it now, but no. Yeah, it's bad.
I understand.
Yeah, I have another story I'll tell you off air. Something similar about being a parent, about how media changes things. But what about it? What drew you in? What was your first experience with it?
Okay, I guess my first real experience was as a kid, but back then I didn't really know that's what it was. Like, I watched Pokemon on Saturday morning, like TV and Sailor Moon, and then in middle school, like I watched a little Dragon Ball Z, but then it got, of course, if you watch it, it gets a little fight heavy, and they'll, like, I remember specifically, it was the Boo fight.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And oh my God, I remember just like being so excited to watch all the episodes every week. And I got so sick of it. And then I literally was like, I'm never watching this again. This is stupid. Yeah. And after that, I just kind of got busy with life through middle and high school and just stopped watching. And again, like back then, you didn't call it anime. It was just cartoons. Yeah, we didn't really specify that's what it was called. So I guess like getting back into it as an adult, it was my husband, back then boyfriend, just in college. And I made fun of him for watching Dragon Ball Z. He was like, oh yeah, I love that show. And I was like, that's so stupid. I stopped watching it because it was dumb. I was like, you're such a boy. You're such a boy watching that show. And I just judged him real hard. And he was like, nah, if we're going to date, I'm going to make you watch a few and then you can really decide. And if you hate it, it's fine.
But did you tell him you had watched it all the way up to Boo?
Yeah. And he was like, you really stopped at like the worst time. And I told him how many like transformations I'd seen. And he was like, no, you were at the end when you stopped. And I was like, I gave up anyway. You stopped at the worst time. But he recommended a few to start with. I'm trying to remember. I think the first thing I saw was Death Note, which for a lot of people they say is a good like entry, like gateway anime, I guess. So I watched Death Note. I thought it was really good. Nowadays, it's not my favorite, but it was good enough to get me in the door and be like, okay, it's not just a kid's thing. There's adult themes. Like I would never show this to children.
Yeah,
like
not that one for sure.
And then I think Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood might have come right after that. And if you've seen it, that's enough to seal the deal. And I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And that kind of did it. And then I knew he had watched Naruto and it's really long, but you're going to skip all the filler so you can get through it and we can talk about it because it's still ongoing. It was ongoing at the time. And I watched all of it and Shippuden in, I don't know, maybe 8 months.
That's super impressive.
Oh, it was bad.
All the media you can consume, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But I will say, in today's world, streaming services giving you the ability to 1.5x or 2x the speed is a game changer.
Oh my gosh, I haven't done that.
It's absolutely game changer, especially when you're talking about filler or even if I ever go back and watch Dragon Ball Z, I'm 100% kicking it up to 2x speed.
That's funny. I do that for all my audiobooks, but I never even thought to do that.
Because especially for fights and stuff, it'll zip through that stuff. Now, some moments they talk too fast, and so you got to slow it down. But it's a game changer.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience with anime. As a kid, and again, I didn't know. I remember staying up too late and like Adult Swim coming on, and there would be Japanese television coming on Adult Swim, and then Toonami in the afternoons watching. Like at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time, I would get home from school, and Sailor Moon would be on, and then at 4:30 Dragon Ball Z would be on, and then like maybe Gundam Wing would come on after that.
Gundam Wing.
And Zoids.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot about that.
So that was my day. Come home, immediately do my homework as fast as I could, and then watch like those 3 shows. And then I got away from it. Like middle school and high school, I moved away from it. And then I guess it was like 2018. Me and a very good friend of mine, we just both were like, you know what we should do? We should watch anime. What animes have come out since we stopped watching? And Death Note, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, a bunch of others, Evangelion. But Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, that was the one that did it for me. That's like a top 3 media for me ever.
Yeah. It's definitely my favorite anime of all time. It hits every note.
Yeah, it's
every
stupendous.
Death Note.
Hey.
That's different, but...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I give you a hard time. But you do, again, you were set up for failure on that one. And...
Yes, for sure. And likewise, I watched it a lot. I watched anime. I watched Dragon Ball Z. I watched
Dragon Ball
some
Z-
Pokemon. I've
let's-
seen Sailor Moon quite a bit.
Let's give Dragon Ball Z credit in that it's good for 8-year-olds to get into anime.
Correct. It definitely exposed
It's
me.
not a good anime.
No, but it exposed me to the medium, and I enjoy it. I'm way open to watching more. I think that there's just so many, and it's just daunting to jump into. So for me, there's other things that I'm already caught up with. There's things I'm already into, and so I've learned that I'm a binger when it comes to entertainment. So if I'm gonna jump into it, I'm gonna watch all 14 seasons of whatever's out there, and it's just hard to commit to one and go for it. So I go through seasons where I can watch a lot of things, and I'm not in that season right now.
I feel that.
I think anime has made a transition because definitely Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece, these like big staples, it has a stigma for lasting forever. But anime really is not that. Those are that way, but
They're a dime a dozen, really, if they go that long.
That's true.
Cowboy Bebop's 20 episodes.
But everyone talks about it still, and that's because
It's so great.
they did it right.
Yeah.
You like jazz music.
Oh yeah.
And I would say too, I'm open to it because of my love for JRPGs, which we talked about.
Yeah, big influence there.
And that's very similar. So I'm very familiar with it. I just have never stopped and like really thrown myself into consuming
Yeah, that's
it.
funny you say that because I'm the opposite. I didn't game also for years until my boyfriend gifted me a PS4, and I was like, "Oh, what are
Bless that
games?
guy.
I haven't gamed since PS2." And I got into JRPGs and was like, "It's anime, but you can play it." I was so
Exactly,
excited.
exactly.
Like Persona 5 was one of my first. I think it was my first JRPG, which was undoubtedly the best one I could have ever played.
Yeah.
You guys definitely should be married because he specifically mentioned that game.
I bought it. He did not want to. He's like, "That looks not really up my alley." And I was like, a bunch of my friends told me I should play it, so I'm gonna. And then when he heard the music, like, I was actually stuck on the screen to name my character because I'm a girl. I can't.
It's a hard.
Thank
it's a
God
hard
there was
choice.
no customization because that would be worse. But I was stuck on the name screen. He's that music is so good. Please move on so I can hear more. And then he watched me play it for 80 hours. I of course played some without him, but it took me 80 hours to beat the game. And we just were like, this music is next level.
Wow.
You know what we
So
should do
cool.
more of? And I don't think it'll always work. We should get husband and wife
Yeah.
one
it's
after
fun.
the other.
Yeah.
Because
This is enlightening.
it is. Because it is.
Because he was just here.
Maybe that's a different show. Maybe that'll be our
Yeah.
next.
It's like the dating game. You guys would kill it because he mentions it's weird how similar the conversation is going. You get back into it as an adult. What are some things that you appreciate at anime, the art form, the style now that probably didn't hit for you when you were a kid?
I think animation, of course, has come a long way.
Yeah.
Like when I got back into it, I was like, oh, people would recommend things to me and I would first go look at the artwork. Like I would look up art for the show and like clips and be like, I was very judgy at first. I was like, I don't like that art style. I'm not going to watch it. Like One Piece. I was like, nope, not watching it. Looks stupid. Looks terrible. And that's because it was old.
Yeah.
And I was really gravitating towards the new things and the newer art styles and like really cool animation. Of course, now I'm much more open. I think that's probably the best thing about anime is it taught me that judging is so stupid. Like I knew everyone knows that, but we all subconsciously do it. Like I judged my boyfriend when I met him. I was like, oh God, he's so immature. He watches Dragon Ball Z. He's such a little boy. And it has a stigma when people are like, oh, I'm an otaku or a weeb. I love anime. Like you can picture in your head typically that person who's is antisocial, doesn't dress well, has colored hair, all these crazy things, doesn't shower. Yeah. What's deodorant? But it's just like nowadays, it's so not the case. I've been lucky enough to meet so many people who do like it. And they are hard to find in like my circle of people. I'm a pretty normal human. Like I have a 9-to-5, a successful job, a house. I like do my chores and I wear deodorant.
Normal.
And for most people that are like consider themselves huge fans of something, especially anime, they just don't see that. They're like, oh, you must just, be flipping burgers or making minimum wage. No, it has nothing to do with it. All those stigmas are just gone. I've met so many cool people and even judging shows before I've watched them, like thinking they were going to be stupid. And I find myself crying at the end. And I'm like, dang, just stop judging.
And I think that's a great point too about judging shows before you get too far in. Because typically speaking, 1, 2, 3 episodes, 4 episodes, you're like, I don't know if I like this. It is cheesy. It's hammy, especially anime. Like it's bizarre sometimes. And like the art is very like, whoa. But as you get into it, the story just really starts to grab you, and it really starts to hit you with twists and turns, and it really pulls you emotionally. And I would say that's true for JRPGs as well. It's just, you can't, the first couple of minutes, the first couple of hours is going to be
daunting.
And it's going to be playful and silly and maybe even childish. But then suddenly you're open to this world of adult emotion that's really heavy for kids. And you're like, oh, this actually isn't for kids. Or it's not for American kids.
So a good example of what you're talking about, I, being an anime fan, and people are like, oh, okay, what should I watch? The one I normally recommend to people is Assassination Classroom. Have you watched this?
I actually haven't. I'll probably binge it tomorrow now that you mentioned it. So
it is, and this is why, to your point, when they're like, okay, what's it about? I'm like, it's about an evil octopus that destroys the moon and threatens to kill all life on Earth in 1 year. But during that year, he teaches a middle school class of all the rejects, and it's extremely heartwarming and lovely. Yeah. And they're like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. And you're like, it is, but it's great TV.
Yeah, I've only ever heard amazing things about it, and it's in a lot of people's like top 5 list.
Amazing.
So I'm mad that I waited so long to watch it.
It's a funny show because there's like this constant impending doom in it, but every episode has this like heartwarming, like, this guy's gonna kill these kids in 10 months, but
so heartwarming.
He really believes in them and wants them to succeed when no one else does. And in his defense, he's teaching them how to kill him. Like, that's the thing.
He wants to die.
Yeah, you gotta watch it.
Everyone listening is, I want to check that out.
Yeah, it sounds bizarre, but again, like, it's arguably one of the most sentimental stories I've watched.
Yeah,
and anime is so weird in that it can capture these emotions, strong emotions, and arguably what is we as Americans, Westerners, view as a medium for children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have any favorites, any go-tos? I know we mentioned Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes, that'll always definitely be in my top. I have to throw in one. I have a very diverse scope of things I like, and Your Lie in April I have to throw in there.
I was hoping you were going to mention
I'm a string player. Of course, I've seen it, and my husband plays piano. I was like, it's perfect. We have to watch it. And that was one that I watched and cried, and I told him, I was like, look, I know you don't like slice of life stuff, but I'm telling you, this one's so good. They animate the violin and piano playing like it's nobody's business. The Steinway piano, like, they went all out. I was like, you just have to watch it. The music's great. I think you're really going to like it. So we binged it in a couple days, and I'm gonna put him on blast. He totally cried, and I was like, yes.
I bawled my eyes out. I've watched it twice, and I cry so hard.
So it's definitely, I've watched it a few times, probably 3 times now, but it's got rewatchability, and it's so good. So yeah, I'd have to say Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Your Lie in April's musical. I gotta throw Orange in there. Not a lot of people have seen that. I don't want to spoil it because there's one thing that could just spoil the whole thing, but it is a slice of life that it starts out, like Regan said, just cute, happy, lively. And you think it's just some kids that are going to high school together, but then it takes a darker and also a little bit of a supernatural turn, but it was something I resonated with a little bit on a personal level, and you will cry. If you don't, you probably have issues.
You guys are giving me homework. I'm going to, by the time we drop this episode, I'm going to try to have fully consumed 2 of those.
And Orange is very short. Your Lie in April's pretty short.
Yep. Okay.
Your Lie in April's only like 17 episodes.
Yes.
Okay. And the octopus one.
That's 2 seasons, so it's a little bit lengthier of a binge, but...
And then I got to throw another slice of life in there, Clannad. If it makes me cry, it goes in there, because I don't... It takes a lot to make me emotional. A lot of scenes where people are like, oh, didn't you cry? No, sorry, I just... don't relate. So if I relate to it, I definitely get more emotional. And Clannad and Clannad After Story specifically, it's 2 seasons, just about 24 episodes, I think, and an OVA. But that one's really good. The first season is just, we're high school kids. Regan said it can start out a little slow, and that first season I was like, why did everyone say this was so good? And then I get to the second season and I'm like, they're adults now, and then you get to see their life later, and a lot of things I really resonated with. I think a lot of people will, and they don't see it coming because of how the first season is. But I binged it in a couple days and it was very good. I did have to take like cry breaks, like pause and be like, dang, didn't think that happened.
Wow.
Hit you hard.
Yeah.
Coming back to an earlier point you made about especially the influence that anime has today, and why it's not just certainly what people thought I was going to grow up to be when I was watching it as a kid, which is unsuccessful living in my mom's basement. But so when I was teaching, because I used to teach music as well. When I was teaching, I found that it was a way I connected with a lot of my students. And the influence that anime has had, I think, generationally, I tell people all the time, I don't care what you see on the internet, like Gen Z, the upcoming generation, they're just significantly better people than we were at their age. And I think part of it is the influence anime has had. And so I have these students that are ranging in age and cultural background, because I taught at West Florida High School, and so they're from all over the county, and they all have this kind of thing in common that I have in common with them, and it builds connection. And man, it's a powerful tool, and it's a powerful art form, and I'm glad it's finally getting the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah.
So, Christina, tell us a little bit about your mystery illness and how anime has helped you through that.
Yeah, so I don't know. When I started dating, my now husband, about a month into it, I remember going to the gym in 2013 and just not feeling quite right. And it's never left. So even now, I'm like, oh, my neck hurts and I'm a little tired and all this stuff. When it first started happening, I went from being like voted most athletic in high school, being very fit, very healthy, not anything wrong with me besides allergies, to being like debilitated, hardly able to walk upstairs, having days where like my back and neck would hurt so bad, I would just go in the hallway and cry. Like I'd leave rehearsal to just be like, what is going on? And so I felt like life was going in this downward spiral. Why is this happening? No doctor, even to this day, can tell me what it is. So of course, at the time I was like, I'm dying. So I really just didn't know. And that's about the time I really started getting into anime. So there was a summer where I was not really bedridden. I just really wasn't going anywhere because it was so tolling on my body. So I just stayed at home, and I think that's when I was binging Naruto the most. And it was just it was a great distraction from my mind. I think a lot of my issues with my body, when it gets worse, is anxiety and stress. So at the time, I wasn't going to school. I had some time off work, and I was just watching anime, and I was like, I needed to just slow down and do something for me. I couldn't remember the last time that I wasn't forced to go to work or go to school. It was like I had a choice, and that was my choice. I was like, I get to finally decide how to spend my time. And I don't know, maybe Naruto's in people's top 5. It's up there for me because of the nostalgia and the length of it. You have that feeling of, oh, you grew up with them, because he goes from being like 12 to like old, especially nowadays with Boruto as well. So at the time, it was just really cool and uplifting to have a very different medium, to see how hard he worked to become the person he was going to be. And I don't know, it just was a great distraction for my mind. And then I was like, everything's going to be okay. And if it's not okay, then fine. So it was just a really healthy distraction for my brain with my stress and anxiety. And I think a lot of people need to slow down and take time for themselves. And I was Miss Hustle Culture back then, was like, why wouldn't you just work your butt off and have 3 jobs like me? I get it now. I get it. Anime's just it now. I make time for anime. Like, it's in my schedule. I'm like, yeah, tonight I'm going to go and watch this new episode of this. And it really is the best for my stress and anxiety. And honestly, my ultimate happiness now.
Yeah. Certainly, I think it's one of the reasons we like doing this podcast and talking to people, is so much of being a fan of something is a reprieve. And that's so necessary, because I certainly believe, like you're talking about, hustle culture and the internet and pressure our families and friends put on us for success and everything like that. Not that those things are bad, but they can go too far. And so having something that allows us to step back and just enjoy something for its own sake.
Yeah, I feel like I felt guilty. I wouldn't go on vacations. I wouldn't do like anything for myself. And really, I didn't give myself the time. And that was a very toxic thing. And I never knew. But it's just, it's exactly what you said. It's a good reprieve. And I think everyone needs that, whatever medium it is.
Yeah.
That's good. What would you say is your favorite thing about anime?
Ooh.
What's your favorite style? You mentioned some slice of lives where several of those are in there. I think that helps.
I would say nowadays, slice of life is definitely more my speed. My husband doesn't really watch those, so it's that time for me. He's not going to bug me. I'm going to watch my little slice of life. And yeah, exactly. We have our game room. He goes in there. I hog the huge TV and the big new couch, and I cuddle up on there with my dog and watch my slice of life. And we'll watch things together. There's a few things like we watch together, and we don't watch episodes without each other, which is annoying because he's gone a lot at night, and I'm like, dang it, I want to watch it, and you're never
You
here.
get a lot of opportunity to binge, and he's wow.
So I binge on the things that I know that like he won't watch. So I guess maybe I put off Assassination Classroom for him. So maybe we'll just start it tomorrow. But yeah, I have to say slice of life is probably gonna be up in my top just because a lot of shonen, which is like the action typically for a young boy, that's what shonen means. Like things like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece, which I am now 400 episodes into One Piece, but I'm taking a long break.
Whoa.
Yeah. I took a break and I want to jump back in, but I don't remember where I am.
That's not even halfway, right?
It's not now. When I stopped,
Yeah.
it was halfway, and now I'm like,
It's over
That's what I'm
900.
talking about. It's over 900.
oh yeah.
Still ongoing. And the
It
manga's
is.
still going. So
Yeah, there's no stopping that one. And it is good, but it took me a long time to get into. But I don't know. I would say slice of life is good because I feel like it can bring out more emotion, and I like things that are emotion inducing. But there's some good shonens out there. There's a lot of shonens that aren't great. I love me some good superpowers and fights. Like I love me a good fight scene. Jujutsu Kaisen is really new. It's so good. I'm going to start reading it. We're obsessed with it right now. But there's some really good shonen out there. So I have to say slice of life and shonen both for very different reasons.
yeah, I can get on board. Do you think slice of life, you say it's because it's emotional, also do you think you connect with any of those themes you find in there?
Yeah, and most slice of life have like romance in them.
Yeah.
When you see slice of life, you can assume that there's going to be some, and I love it. I'm cheesy. Throw it at me all day.
You like Fruit Basket?
Oh my God, I just finished the new one. Oh, it was so good. I put off watching the last episode, and my husband's, just watch it. And I was like, I don't want to cry. All my friends said they cried, and I just don't feel like crying. Like, I just don't want to have a headache from crying. And so I did watch it the other day. He's like, you crying? And I was like, no, I made it. I did not cry. But man, I want to throw it in my top 5 now. I just don't know if I could replace Clannad or... Yeah, the top 5 is like a big thing for anime fans. Like you have your top 5 and you recommend those to like people.
I'd have to watch 5 first.
Yeah, Fruits Basket, the new one was very good.
Yeah, I never watched the original.
Too.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I've not. Okay. Only thing I've ever watched all the way through is definitely, I guess it's Dragon Ball Z, like top to bottom. And I even got into, what's the crap that comes after it? Nope, GT. Yeah.
Oh, that one I
GT.
heard was not as...
No, it got weird fast.
Yeah, it's weird. That's a good way to describe
Got
it.
weird fast. And you can't really count Last Airbender.
Okay, that's a big thing in the anime community.
that's what I'm
I say...
I count it. But,
yes. I say yes.
Thank
It
you.
wasn't made in Japan, and I
you.
know it.
But it's okay. It
But-
doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
It would
I
check
just
every
didn't-
box, but besides
every
that-
other box besides being made in
Yeah.
Japan, yeah.
Okay, so thank you. So I guess I've watched 2 top to bottom. Last Airbender I've done twice.
Here's why I can definitively prove this. I could settle this argument. Studio Ghibli has 2 films that were made in France, but we're not discounting that.
Thank you.
Studio Ghibli, arguably the biggest.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
it's not anime. Those, I guess we could debate that, but those are specifically anime films Studio Ghibli makes, but they're the biggest studio in the world.
Yeah.
Arguably.
So there's those 2. I've seen some of others, but I've never actually gone from top to bottom.
Yeah, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood's my number 1. It's just
I'm sure I will
fantastic.
enjoy it. I know I will.
What I always tell about that series, 1, the story's great, but the world building, it is a masterclass on how to build a fantasy world that doesn't ever take away from the plot.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of fluff. And it's not near as... I actually love Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood because you don't find shows like that where they're like, we're going to start it and we're going to end it.
Yep.
And we're not going to put in any fluff. We're going to give you the full story with beautiful animation, awesome music to add to it. And there's no episode you're going to watch where you're like, oh, that one was a little lackluster. Not at all.
Oh, cool.
Ever.
So no filler episodes.
None at all.
It never deviates from the plot.
Oh, good.
And you get the end game of that show like 30 episodes in. and you have a whole second half, and you know who the bad guy is and what they're trying to do, and it's just great.
And they do it in a good amount of episodes. I think it's what, like 50 or
yeah, I think
50
right around
something.
60 or
close
50,
to 60.
Yeah.
So it's really not bad.
I'm leaving Chelsea in the dust.
Because I'd say most
I'm just
anime
gonna
stick
go
in
finish
that
it.
one season, 12 to 24 episodes. Then you've got the One Pieces and the Narutos that are going to be 500, 800 plus. But
I could do that in 2 days.
Yeah.
oh yeah, you could do Full Metal in 2 or 3
I
years.
wouldn't recommend doing that at accelerated speed because
No.
you
wanna
really
catch it.
you
Yeah,
really
for sure.
want to hear
sure.
everything in that.
Yeah, you could do it in a week. I mean,
They talk fast too. Yeah, a week is probably more
yeah,
realistic.
speed it up. Time to.
Yeah.
So FMAB number 1, probably Cowboy Bebop number 2. I love the animation you talk about, like, being dated late 80s, early 90s animation. I often tell people Evangelion, not my favorite anime, but it's the one I think
It is
about
up
the
there.
most.
It's very thought-provoking toward
Yeah.
the end. Those last 3 episodes, I was like,
It sticks with you for a long time. I just started rewatching it. I think it's not for everyone. It's not one I would recommend to everybody, but if I think you can handle it, it's something I would recommend.
yeah, if you like Gundam and you like a good plot and things that are thought-provoking,
Yep.
it's for you.
Your Lie in April is up there. And see, this is where it gets tough. That 5th spot is either Assassination Classroom or Yu Yu Hakusho. It's probably the one like Shounen anime that I truly think is good. You talk about like fighting tournament. That's the best fighting tournament, even though it's very long. It's 3 seasons of fighting tournament. But yeah, it's great. One thing you briefly talked about that I definitely want to come back on is anime music. My opinion, anime music, all bops. What is it like for you when you start a new show and that opening credit is just hooks you?
Yeah, I would say most recently, Jujutsu Kaisen definitely took me by surprise. The opening and ending, which normally endings I skip them because I'm like, they're never that great. They save all the good stuff for the beginning of the show. But gosh, the ending for Jujutsu Kaisen was next level. Unfortunately, they pulled it off all streaming platforms because their drummer had a very small like felony charge in Japan. And they were like, we're taking all our stuff down because we don't want him to get any money. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. But anyway, so I can't listen to my favorite song anymore. But it's so
I bet you
crazy.
can on Pirate Bay.
Oh yeah. I know so many people have pirated it because it's a hit. But yeah, it's so weird because I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
Some shows are nice enough to put the English lyrics on there, but really no, not as much lately. They used to do it a lot. And I can say happily that my anime playlist is probably my most listened to playlist. It is for sure. In my car, my husband makes fun of me. He gets in the car. He's like, can we please listen to something else? I'm like, but I love it. And I hate the radio and all
There's
that
a
music
great
really
playlist
sucks.
on Spotify that's anime
I'll have to look it up.
intros.
I wonder if it's mine. No, I'm just kidding.
Could be.
That would be ridiculous.
No, you make a good point though. You don't ever skip the intro of an anime.
No, they're all bops.
And you
it's
know what?
Designed for it's an era when you couldn't skip.
Yeah, and that's true. And nowadays, like my husband and I talk about this all the time, rock music has disappeared off the mainstream. Like I remember being able to listen to popular radio and you would hear pop,
Yeah,
R&B,
yeah,
rap,
yep.
country, everything.
Top 40 had everything.
Yeah, and now rock is gone. I'm in a rock band and do classic rock, but like actual rock music has disappeared, and in anime, that's literally what most of it is. So there's the new ones that are a little more hip hoppy poppy, and I even actually love those. They're way more musical than our typical pop formula you hear on the radio all the time. I just have such an appreciation for what they do, and it's not that there's not a formula for them, because there's totally a formula.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
the anime chord, the secondary dominant in every single song. Like you can't miss it. And I really appreciate, because I love rock music. I grew up listening to Screamo and all this other craziness, and it's cool to have so many different styles of music. So when I hear a bop, I rewind to find out who the name is, and I find it on Spotify if it's there.
awesome.
Yeah, what's interesting to me, to your point, is we had this thing in the late 90s and early 2000s in America, the rise of pop punk. And it didn't,
Best era.
it didn't
of
really
music.
last a long
No, it didn't.
time. Like we're talking like 98 to like 2006. I would go a little
3 or
later because
4.
you would see,
It was gone by 6.
yeah, what do you count Hoobastank? It was definitely more mainstream than it started off with Blink 182 and stuff like that. But it lives on in anime now. And I don't know if Mark Hoppus is thinking about how his legacy is in these Japanese cartoon shows, but that's really where that music continues, and in many ways significantly elevated. I always tell people, if you want to hear like a masterclass on a bass line, listen to an anime intro, because they always have the craziest electric bass parts.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why they go so hard, but they do, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I will also say, the first time I watched Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, I was so disappointed when the songs changed.
Same.
It was jarring for me.
Because I think the first one is Again by Yui, and that was probably the first song I was obsessed with in anime because it was one of the first I watched. And I was like, yeah, that's the coolest song I've ever heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thanks for the warning. Glad to know.
You're still in, but not like episode 12.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
I think it was like 5 or 6 12-episode seasons when it came out. But.
Okay.
One thing we always do is in on a couple of questions. They're the same questions every time. So what, if you had any critique for anime or anime fans, what would it be?
Let me take a sip of my drink. No, I'd say, and it's going to be what I think anyone would say is, first of all, the sub-dub argument that all anime fans love to have. And I think it's silly. So sub being people who listen to it in the original Japanese voice actors, and dubs being whatever country you live in or whatever language you speak. I personally like dubs because of the way I am. I'm a multitasker. I don't typically, again, y'all know me, I'm a hustle culture lady. I rarely sit down and only watch something.
And read.
Yeah, exactly. And I read quickly, but my comprehension is really low for a teacher. I read something, I'm like, oh, I read the words, but what actually happened? And I like to focus on the fight scenes if there is one. I don't want to miss anything cool. So for me, and I'll do the dishes and watch a show, or I'll play with my dog and watch a show. So I like to sometimes just be able to listen, especially if it's like a lot of talking. But there's those, I call them sub-elitists out there who are like, if you watch dubs, you're not a fan. If you don't watch sub and you don't sub, you're not a fan. I'm like, first of all, are you bilingual in both languages? Because who are you to even say if we can all know if an English is good or bad, like the original Sailor Moon? I don't love it. Some people do. I think her like up north accent is a little weird. But who are you to know that the Japanese are actually good at their jobs? We don't speak the language. And if you do, I would love to talk to you because that is a conversation I'd love to have. But for Americans who speak one language to be like, it's just elite. I'm like, you really?
So we're pure.
Right, you're allowed to have an opinion, but it's, I don't know, it's just silly. And I think that people gatekeep it a lot, not just with that, with the, you need to watch sub, not dub, don't ever watch dub. You're allowed to have your preference, that's fine. But just the gatekeeping in general, especially I'd say for women. I feel like anime was probably more created for men at first, with Shounen being so popular and the biggest genre. It's literally created for boys. And now there's shoujo, which is created for girls, which is great. You can watch either and be any gender. It does not matter. But I think there's a lot of gatekeeping with males, and I know this because I'm in a lot of Facebook groups that like anime. And actually, just last year during the pandemic, I discovered an all-girls anime group, and they're like, if you're a male and you identify strictly male, you just can't be here. This is just for us. We're all in multi-gender groups, and that's fine. But this is the one just for us. And nowadays, it's the only one I go to. They are so funny. They have so many rules about treating each other with respect. And then I go back to my groups where there's a lot of men, and it can be so draining just hearing the things that come out of their mouth and the arguments that the groups allow to happen. And a lot of, oh, she has only seen 2 anime, she's not a fan. I'm like, that's the kind of attitude that keeps people from liking something. Like when I was getting into Star Wars, I felt so behind, and I was like, oh God, what am I even doing? I'm not meant to be here. There's so many hardcore fans. Who am I even to watch this? And then I did watch it, and I did enjoy it, and started doing more research, and was like, okay, I really like this. And I didn't want to be gatekeeped, and luckily enough, I had a group of friends who were obsessed with it that were very supportive. But yeah, I think gatekeeping in general is just so annoying. And again, like I said, it's the whole judging something before you see it thing. A lot of people have probably seen weebs argue on the internet and how toxic that can be. And I don't want that to be the thing people know about anime. I want it to be the community that I see and I chose to put myself in, that's really positive and accepting and uplifting and all that. The last thing I want is people to be like, oh, I've heard they're so toxic. Man, I'm not going to watch.
That's a good point to the critique about, oh, they've only seen 2 anime, they're not a fan. At one point in a person's life, they also had only seen 1 or 2. Like, but you still knew you liked it. Yeah. That's one thing we've also identified on this show a lot, is that gatekeeping is real and it's stupid. And it's kind of, I think we're reaching a point where fans are like, yeah, I like it. You like it too? Cool. Let's hang out. Let's talk about it. Which is really cool to know that's where the future is hopefully headed. But it is true. That's a common critique of almost every fandom we've talked about.
Yeah. I definitely think it is, like when you talk Star Wars ownership, like fan ownership is a big problem there. The gatekeeping obviously certainly still exists there. I think anime fans are really bad about gatekeeping because there are so many things to gatekeep about within anime, sub versus dub, animation studios. Again, talking about Avatar. Does Avatar count or not count? Like,
Speaking of, I meant to say this earlier, I thought of another reason why it doesn't count. The intro.
it's not a bop.
It's not even music.
It's not even music.
All talking.
Yeah, I have it memorized and it's really cool. It's a great poem, but it's not.
Good point.
It's not
That's a
music.
good point. Anime's out.
Anyway.
Avatar's out.
Yeah, anyway.
I do think it's a big issue in this space because there's a lot of variety because anime, we group it as its own styling, but it's like you were talking about earlier, it is a medium of different stylings. It's just like cinema, which has all these varieties, dramas, action, horror. Anime is that. It is not its own, and maybe in the 90s it was because of who the target audience was, and there were so many mechs and everything else, but it's not that way anymore. I think one thing that I'm really thankful for was getting away from anime for a long time. Or I'm a white dude with a beard on the internet. Like, I probably have the potential to be that guy. But because I, for 20 years, didn't watch anime, coming back to it, I was looking to women, minorities, former students of mine who had been in it while I wasn't for guidance and advice and, hey, what should I watch? And I will say there's been one time in my life where I found myself really guilty of it, which is I asked people for a recommendation and people were like, you should watch Cowboy Bebop. You should watch Yu Yu Hakusho. And I was like, I was there in 96, bro. I've been apart. I get it.
Yeah.
That was my one bad time. But
We all do it.
Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
The follow-up is always, what does the future look like? Where do you see anime in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's so bright because when I started, I wasn't invested, and really neither was my husband. We were both in music school. We were very busy, so we were watching them, interestingly, on places we probably shouldn't have. So we weren't paying to watch it. And now I pay for everything because it is the best way to support. And of course, we aren't broke college kids anymore.
There really wasn't a whole lot of access. Actually,
That's
I don't think
true.
there was any
That was
access.
true.
Even just like how many years ago is that? I don't want to talk about how many years ago it was, but far enough away
don't
that
have
things
to.
have changed a lot in the past few years.
Just in the last 2 years, there's been a huge influx of access to anime. So
Just everyone has a streaming platform now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see it. And you brought up something really interesting that when we were kids, it really was more aimed at kids. I feel like there weren't as many that were aimed toward just adults and not for kids. I feel like they were all leaning on both a little.
certainly the ones that came to America
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
were like,
We're
this is
definitely-
it's cartoons, it's kids.
Yeah. And nowadays they're aiming one specifically at kids and specifically really at adults. Like there's ones kids just should not be watching. And I think that is going to open a lot of doors for people to be more open to it. I think the biggest gripe is that people are like, it's a cartoon, cartoons are for kids. And I'm like, you watch like literally Marvel and DC movies and you want to know how much of that was on a computer and is animated? Let's just talk about that. And if you're watching Star Wars, if you like that, I'm telling you that you are going to enjoy that medium. And I just think the stigma around cartoons in general is getting a little better. I think they think, oh, and that's all very immature, the ones made in America, immature, a little vulgar, like on Adult Swim and stuff, Ed, Edd n Eddy type of things that are just no substance at all. Whereas anime is very different. And I just think it's a very bright future. And you mentioned connecting with your students, and I definitely do as well. They see me and just see me as some successful teacher who's just got it all together. And I'm like, oh no, I watch anime and eat pizza at night. That's what I do. But I also get my work done. And they're like, what? You can do that? It's cool to watch my students go from being like, that's just dumb, Miss A. Who would watch anime? It's stupid. And then one of their friends gets them to watch something. I watched it happen this school year, actually. And I saw one of the kids today. She would not watch it. She thought it was dumb. She watched, I think, Haikyuu and My Hero Academia, which I've seen both of. And now on her viola case is stickers of all of those things.
That's awesome.
And she, even today, because of the stickers on her case, there was a kid from another school. She's, oh, you've seen those? Oh my God, what else have you seen? Boom, friendship. And I'm like, oh my God, these are kids who were probably so shy, and now they're having just a way to connect with people. And I love to see that. So I'm really excited for what it's going to do for the young people growing up, being so much less judgy. I do think the people coming after us are going to be just really awesome human beings.
Yes.
And I think anime can help add to that. Again, like American cartoons are lacking in substance, whereas anime, there's always some kind of moral or purpose. And some purposes will be to be funny. Some will be to be really cool. And some will be even educational. Like Dr. Stone, I watch. I'm obsessed with that one. It's so good. And that's the kind of stuff I think kids need to be watching. Parents can even connect with their children through that, because now you can't sit down and watch Game of Thrones with your kids.
Yeah.
So it's like, you shouldn't.
But you can, but I would not recommend
probably
it.
have.
But you shouldn't. So I really see it being a really bright future. And I'm hoping that with the support of us here in the West, that the culture around the animation studios and the mangakas out there who, if you don't know, are really struggling and they're very overworked. And Japan is very much into that hustle culture. You need to work 24/7, never see your family to make ends meet, especially when it comes to their entertainment. And I think it's very unfair. And us in the West, we really are fighting for them. So that's why I'm much more of a proponent now of pay for your streaming services, pay for all of them. If you really want to consume, you could probably spend a good $20 a month and have access to literally all the anime ever and manga, and really support them and get them on a healthier track.
Yes.
If we love the medium, we got to support it.
There is in the news right now, of course, it'll be a little old by the time this episode airs, but Netflix is in trouble.
Yes, I saw that.
Because of how they've treated. Netflix has been pumping out some anime over the last couple of years. Original anime, again, being produced in Japan. And there are some pretty big animation studios. There's one that I'm not going to name just for the sake of not going there, but that is pumping out every anime you probably watch right now is being produced by one big studio.
Yes, it is. And they are great at their jobs, but ouch.
Yes. They apparently their employees are hurting pretty bad. And it's something that absolutely we need to be better about. And when a light needs to be shined on it.
Okay, so Christina, you have a lot going on. Tell us about first Emerald Coast Honors Orchestra. Where'd that come from? What is it? How do people see it?
Yeah, so it started, I believe, when I was a senior in high school. And my teacher actually had us do a rock concert. And this is orchestra. We play classical music, sometimes pop, but never rock. So she hired a drummer. We turned down the lights, had stand lights, lasers. Like, she made it a full-on rock show. And it was the coolest thing we ever did. And I played like some Led Zeppelin, some Pink Floyd, just all these great classics I honestly never heard before. So it was really cool for me to be able to do that. But my teacher got in trouble. A parent complained and said, "You're teaching devil music to our children. Don't ever do a concert like this again."
That's when you're on the right track.
Yep.
Yes, it is. And so she said, I don't want this.
Music was born that way.
Yeah, I don't want to do this job if I can't do what I love. Like, the kids loved it too. Like, kids who would never experience that type of music got to. And that's what I'm here for. So she was real upset and created ECHO, the Emerald Coast Honors Orchestra. So it started out as just a little summer camp. And she's like, we're playing rock music. That's what we're going to do. And so she put on a cool rock show. People loved it. Parents loved it. Kids loved it. And she's, you know what? ECHO is going to be the thing where we play everything we can't do at school. Because really at school, you have to play classical music. You've got to go through those learning steps. Like, all of you have done music. You know how it is. Like, there's those songs everyone has sung or everyone has played. And you hear it and you roll your eyes. And it's just part of it. And I know it too. And I do the best I can to give my kids a well-rounded music education. But I also want to keep my public school job. So I do try to be very unbiased. I don't play like any religious music. I actually have not even done holiday concerts because of all the religious issues that I have had. And so I don't want kids to stop playing because of that. So it's been increasingly difficult to play what I really want to and what brings me joy. So she hired me to start teaching it after I got a little college education in me. And it was so much fun. And it really started as more rock music and pop music. And then we do some classical still. We started doing some world music. And then we got asked to play at Pensacon.
Yeah.
So we had a connection there. And he said, it'd be really cool if y'all could play some video game stuff. And I was really into composing at the time and wanted composing to be like my side job. So I started taking some video game music because that was around the time I started playing games again. And boyfriend, now husband. And I actually get to arrange stuff for kids. So it has to be on the easy side. But I've arranged like probably 30 or 40 different anime and video game tunes for us to play at Pensacon. And it's just so cool to see the videos and they're like, oh my God, that's the Chocobo theme.
Yeah.
Or that's from Sailor Moon. And so it's been so fun for me to learn how to arrange, because it's not composing, it's arranging, but learning how to arrange stuff kids can play where it still sounds like the song and it's fun for them. And a lot of them would never like that kind of stuff. But then there's the ones who never on earth would they have had a chance to play something like that. They don't publish anime music. There's actually one Naruto song that is legally published in our state. And I'm actually really excited about that. Maybe that'll open some doors for me to make some money on some arrangements. But that's been really fun. So Echo is, we always say #private orchestra, because we can do so many things without the loopholes of public school. And put on so much cooler concerts, and funding is a lot easier than it is in the public school system. I'm not knocking my job. I love my job. And I actually teach at West Florida High School too. I've been there for 6 years. I teach middle and high school and, but yeah, so Emerald Coast Honors Orchestra is awesome. If you have a string player or a student who just wants to learn, we actually do have a beginner class now. We started that last year. Of course, during COVID, it was small and we were like, oh no.
Can I come learn cello?
Yes. Honestly, awesome. Yes. There's so many cool things in the works with Echo, and we're just so excited for it to grow even more, play at maybe even more cons with the kids. They love it. We're the cosplaying orchestra. We're the rock orchestra. The kids will come play with White Tie when they get older, and we even pay them for gigs and stuff.
Cool.
So it's
That's
like
cool.
they get real. We're basically trying to be like the Pensacola Children's Chorus of Orchestra. Our focus is performing, putting on a great high quality performance, and again, doing stuff you can't do at school. And it's really awesome. So
That's super
Echo's
cool.
great. It takes place every Sunday during the school year, the normal school year at St. Mark United Methodist Church. And right now we're doing Echochella, our summer camp. So we're
Nice.
playing all pop music, and
That's
they're going to
awesome. That's
dress all festivally on Friday for their concert.
That's cool. And so you mentioned it a second ago, but the White Tie Rock Ensemble and Tied Up Quartet, what's going on there?
Yeah, things got a little slow in the pandemic, but we're just a local rock band. And for years, the leader of the band, John Clark, really wanted to he's been in bands his whole life, but wanted something more than just playing in bars every night till 3 a.m. When you have a family, it's just not feasible. So he's, I want to do something bigger. And so he found all his great musicians, and every great band needs a gimmick. And that would be us, the Tied Up Quartet. Not many people have that, and there's actually quite a bit of rock music that has amazing string parts. So it's been really fun to do that and get to see the band grow. We started playing at PLT, the Pensacola Little Theater, and Washington High School, and now we have sold out the Sanger Theater multiple times. We've played at the Blue Wahoo Stadium to keep everyone safe during the pandemic. Now the fairgrounds, we played there a lot, and now we are actually expanding to the Pensacola Bay Center.
Wow.
So that's going to be really huge for us, and we want that to be like our new location, and that's huge. It's the biggest venue we have, really. So I'm stoked about that. Really
Playing,
excited.
Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, right?
Yep, Zeppelin and Pink Floyd for our next show. I'm so excited.
That's awesome. And anything else you want to plug or talk about?
What else could I plug? I can plug myself. I'm such an exciting person, wannabe influencer, aren't we all? See Shorty Go is my Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time. Facebook is pretty much now just for my anime groups at this point, and keeping up with family. But yeah, I'm on Instagram. I do all sorts of weird things. I'm an open book. I just post any and everything. And I'm a teacher. I want to share my life experiences in hopes that other people can learn things, whether you're watching me make mistakes and learning from them, or you're seeing the happy things and hoping that you can do something like that, that's just how it goes. I share all my anime that I watch on there and video games I'm playing, and hopefully in the future there's YouTube things in the works with not just me, but with a group of people and group of friends. So hopefully later I've got some YouTube content, anime related and even just life related, coming your way.
Very cool. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Fantastic People. Please rate and subscribe wherever you find your podcast. To continue today's discussion, join the free Facebook group, which is Fantastic People Podcast Hangout, and follow us on social media. That's at fantastic_peoplepod on Instagram and at fantasticpeople, no E, on Twitter. We'd like to say thank you to Alex Edmondson for our artwork and Brian Velasquez for our music.